Hi learners, welcome to the last session of week 7. Today we shall learn on architecting the startup growth engine, that is, developing a GTM plan through collaborative strategy. The creation of a go to market plan represents the definitive transition from a product concept to the commercial enterprise. For any startup, the GTM strategy is the comprehensive roadmap that dictates how the company will reach target customers and achieve a sustainable competitive advantage. However, a plan is only an effective as the individuals hired to execute it and the alignment between the visionaries leading the charge. Developing this plan requires a dual focus on strategic framework and high stakes human interaction, specifically through the rigorous hiring interviews and the transparent co founder discussions. The strategic framework, developing the GTM plan. A GTM plan must solve the fundamental equation of delivering the right product to the right audience at the right price point. According to Blank and Doff, in 2020, startups fail more often due to the lack of customers than a failure of technology. Therefore, the plan must be rooted in the validated market needs rather than internal assumptions. Defining the value proposition and market fit. The first stage of the GTM plan involves articulating a unique value proposition that addresses a specific pain point in the market. This requires a deep dive into the customer discovery to move beyond features and into benefits. Maurya in 2012 emphasizes that the goal of the early GTM phase is to achieve product market fit, where the product's value matches the market's demand so perfectly that the product effectively pulls itself to the distribution channel. Strategic positioning and the messaging hierarchy. Once the audience is identified, the startup must define its position relative to the incumbents. Positioning is a psychological exercise intended to own a specific niche in the mind of the prospects. The GTM plan should include a messaging hierarchy that ensures consistency across each touchpoints. From the website, landing page to the sales desk. This messaging must be agile, allowing for rapid pivots as early feedback from the market trickles back to the product team. Selecting the distribution motion. So the startup must decide between a bottom up, product led growth model or the top down enterprise sales motion. This decision is typically governed by the complexity of the product and the average contract value. While PLG relies on virality and low friction users adoption, enterprise motions require a sophisticated sales force capable of navigating the complex procurement cycles. Role play, the hiring interview for GTM execution. The execution of the GTM plan rests on the shoulders of the first key hires. These individuals must possess the founder mentality, the ability to build processes from scratch in the environment of extreme uncertainty. The head of the sales interview, scaling the playbook, where the interviewing a potential sales leader, the founder must look beyond past performance at large corporations. The key is to identify a builder rather than a manager. A vital interview question might be, how do you design our first sales playbook when you have zero brand recognition? This tests the candidate's ability to create a repeatable process without the safety net of an established marketing department. According to Gallo, the most successful early hires are those who can communicate the startup's vision as a story that resonates with the early adopters' desire for innovation. The growth led marketing team interview. Data versus creativity. For the marketing lead, the interview must probe for a balance of analytical rigor and creative storytelling. A startup cannot afford awareness campaigns that do not result in measurable leads. Asking a candidate to prioritize three marketing channels for our launch with a limited budget reveals their understanding of the customer acquisition cost and the lifetime value. A candidate who mentions testing and iteration cycle aligns with the lean startup methodology of continuous improvement. Role play, the co founder discussion on GTM alignment. The relationship between co founders is the most significant internal variable in the GTM success. Misalignment on market entry or pricing can lead to catastrophic internal friction. Navigating the speed to market tension in many startups, one co founder pushes for an immediate launch to gather data, while the other, often the technical lead, prefers to wait until the product is perfect. This discussion must be framed around the concept of minimum viable products. Rice argued that any effort beyond what is required to start the learning process is a form of waste. Co founders must agree on what constitutes good enough to ship, ensuring that the DTM plan is not stalled by internal perfectionism. The debate over pricing and monetization pricing is often a point of contention. One founder might advocate for a freemium model to capture market share, while the other might worry about the high cost of supporting non paying users. This discussion requires a shared understanding of long term unit economics. By establishing a North Star metric such as active daily users or monthly recurring revenue, co founders can ground their arguments in objective data rather than subjective opinions. Integrating people and strategy for market entry. A GTM plan is a living document that requires constant synchronization between the people who build the product and those who sell it. When the hiring and co founder discussions are handled with transparency, the startup develops a culture of extreme ownership where every team member understands their role in the market entry. This alignment allows the startup to be more responsive than larger competitors, turning their small size into tactical advantage. Now we shall discuss a case study on the Snowflake GTM evolution. Snowflake's entry into the data warehousing market is a textbook example of a GTM plan executed to the strategic leadership and perfect market positioning. At the time of their launch, the cloud data market was already being contested by the massive players like Amazon and Google. GTM strategy development, so the Conflicts GTM plan was built on a unique technical architecture that allowed storage and computation to scale independently. They did not just launch a product, they launched a category. By positioning themselves as a data cloud, they addressed the specific pain points of legacy systems that were too slow and too expensive for modern big data needs. Executive hiring and execution. The company growth accelerated when they hired Frank Slotman as CEO. Slotman brought a performance based culture that demanded absolute alignment between sales and the engineering teams. His hiring strategy focused on militant execution, ensuring that the GTM plan was not just a document on a shelf, but a daily operational reality. Co founder and leadership synergy, the technical founders of Snowflake remained focused on innovation, while the professional management team focused on the global scale. This synergy allowed Snowflakes to navigate one of the most successful software IPOs in history. Their success underscores the importance of having a robust GTM plan supported by a team that is perfectly aligned on the how and why of the company's mission. Happy learning!